In southern France, two treasure hunters are pursuing a new lead in their search for the remains of arguably the most significant woman in history, Mary Magdalene.
During our quest, we had lots of dead ends, but this time we are absolutely sure this is the place to be.
Pat Jokel and his friend Ronnie are history enthusiasts who've spent 20 years trying to uncover the whereabouts of Mary Magdalene's tomb.
We think now we pinpointed exactly the lost resting place of Mary Magdalene.
Pat's research has unearthed a set of 13th century documents from the French archive, suggesting a medieval aristocrat stole the saint's remains. With this new evidence, Pat believes he's one step closer to finding Mary Magdalene's burial place in southern France and solving one of the Bible's greatest mysteries.
Could be the moment to find Mary Magdalene. I mean, we have got the equipment, we have got the right place. If we find Mary Magdalene, we will rewrite history.
If we were able to prove that the remains of a human body were those of Mary Magdalene, that would be an awesome event. I mean, it would prove the veracity of the Bible.
The skull found in St. Maximum is clearly something of great importance, but as to whether it could be Mary Magdalene, I'm pretty skeptical.
She's feisty, she's articulate, she's, dare I say, controlling Jesus.
In the era of Me Too, it's time to put Mary Magdalene where she should always have been, front and center of the Bible story.
You're listening to Forbidden History, the podcast series that explores the past's darkest corners, sheds light on the lives of intriguing individuals, and uncovers the truth buried deep in history's most controversial legacies. I'm Janine Haroni, and this is Finding Mary Magdalene. In this series, we'll delve into the history archives, dig up stories old and new, such as examining the strange life of Peter the Great, revealing the secrets of Nikola Tesla, and uncovering how a man nearly succeeded in pulling off one of history's greatest hoaxes, the Hitler Diaries. But in this episode, we're looking for one of the most mysterious figures in Christianity, Mary Magdalene. According to all four Gospels, Jesus chose Mary Magdalene as the first witness to the resurrection after his crucifixion. She was entrusted with spreading this momentous news. But after the resurrection, the Bible sheds little light on what happened to her next, with many believing she was deliberately written out of history. 2,000 years on, Mary continues to be one of the church's most disputed subjects. Some believe she was a prostitute. Many claim she was Jesus' most devoted disciple and was at the heart of the Christian faith. However, some suggest she was much more. For Pat and Ronnie, they have dedicated their lives to finding her remains and revealing the truth. But what is the truth? Who was the real Mary Magdalene? And does her body lay hidden in the south of France, waiting to be found? But in order to trace her steps, we must first start at the beginning. The Sea of Galilee, Israel, if the Bible is to be believed, is where Mary first met Jesus.
When Jesus began his mission, he went from village to village, doing kind of big dramatic stuff first, like casting out demons. And one of the people that allegedly cast demons out of was the woman that became known as Mary, called Magdalene.
Historian and author Lynn Picknett has written 2 best-selling books on Mary Magdalene. She's been researching the truth about her for over 30 years and believes if Mary Magdalene had been a man, it would have been a different story.
In the early days of the Catholic Church, when they were organizing the religion and deciding what was dogma and what wasn't, it became very obvious from all the texts that they had that Mary Magdalene had been a prime mover in the religion from the very beginning. And they couldn't have that. They didn't want women to find her as a role model. So they had to demean her. They had to basically turn her into the worst thing they could imagine, which was a prostitute.
The prostitute moniker, which has become synonymous with Mary Magdalene, began in 591 AD, when Pope Gregory the Great gave a sermon which confused Mary Magdalene with two other women in the Bible. He pronounced that Mary of Bethany and the unnamed sinner in Luke's Gospel were all the same person, Mary Magdalene. Despite the Vatican publicly correcting this error in 1969, her mistaken identity endured throughout popular culture. But following the success of two best-selling books, the 1980s The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and more recently The Da Vinci Code, there are many who are now willing to shout about her central place in the Bible. So what evidence is there to support Mary Magdalene's significant role in Christianity?
Arguably, Mary Magdalene was just as important to the church as Jesus himself. In the story in the New Testament, Mary Magdalene goes with some other women to basically tend Jesus' body after the crucifixion. But she turns up on her own in the garden and discovers his body gone and a man she doesn't recognize who turns out to be the resurrected Jesus.
But why is Magdalene, being the first person to witness Jesus in his resurrected state, so important? The historian, author, and journalist Tony McMahon explains.
The resurrection is what defines Christianity. It's belief in the resurrection. And who is sent to witness that momentous event? Mary Magdalene. There is no doubt that she is the most important follower of Jesus.
For historians like Tony, the idea that treasure hunters are following new leads in the quest to find her remains is very exciting.
If we were able to prove that a human body, the remains of a human body, were those of Mary Magdalene, that would be an awesome event. I mean, it would prove the veracity of the Bible.
But for our treasure hunters, Pat and Ronnie, to begin their search, they must first ascertain what happened to her after the resurrection. However, records of Mary's life after the Ascension are shrouded in mystery. Some believe she lived out her days in Ephesus, Turkey. Others claim she remained in the Holy Land. But many, including some popes, believe Mary Magdalene fled on a boat, crossing the Mediterranean Sea to arrive at the south of France, in a town now called Saint-Marie-de-la-Mer. Tony McMahon again.
Now, curiously, this boat has no oars, no sails, but somehow manages to go practically the entire length of the Mediterranean. It washes up on the southern coast of France, where Mary Magdalene makes it to shore and begins her Christian mission among the French.